The Andy Pollin Show.
We got to go after this with everything we got, figuring they're going to come with everything they got.
I'll start off by saying I'm bored, I'm broke, and I'm back.
The Andy Pollin Show on ESPN 630 starts right now.
If you've ever worked in a management position that involves hiring, invariably it'll come up in a staff meeting. Let's make an out-of-the-box hire. Sometimes it works out. Often it does not. In this business, they like to hire comedians. Comedians don't work well in this business because they have prepared material that they rehearse over and over. Wise guys do well in this format, but comedians, they don't. Dan Snyder wanted to make an out-of-the-box hire with Steve Spurrier. How'd that work out? Not too good. 5-11, not too good. Happens all the time. Howard made an out-of-the-box hire with Kenny Blakeney, and this has worked out. Now, it's not like Blakeney hadn't been around successful basketball organizations. He played his high school basketball at DeMatha for Morgan Wooten, one of the greatest high school coaches of all time. He's in the Basketball Hall of Fame. And Kenny Blakeney was the Gatorade Player of the Year at DeMatha. From there, where did he go? Oh, he went to Duke. What happened at Duke? He was a part of 2 national championship teams and was the captain of the team as a senior. But he didn't stay in coaching after playing. He did some coaching, but then got into private business. And Howard decided to make an out-of-the-box hire by hiring Kenny Blakeney in 2019. He might have been successful. He might not have been. Now, it was before NIL, but he understood what it was like to be a part of winning basketball operations at DeMatha and at Duke. And he had to learn along the way how to do it himself because he was a spoke in the wheel during his days of playing and coaching briefly under Mike Krzyzewski. But he eventually got it. And what happened with this team in the last 6 years is remarkable. In his first year, he won 1 MEAC game. He won 4 games all season. Second season, they had to shut down because of COVID. But then he started to build. They were over 500 in his third year. His fourth year, they made the NCAA tournament for the first time in over 20 years, almost 30 years. And they have now made it 3 times in the last 4 years. And last night, for the first time in the history of Howard University, one of the most historical colleges, not just in the Washington area, but across the country, among the HBCUs, it's considered to be the best of the best. And they have a medical school. They have a list of alumni, very, very prominent alumni from that school. And so he has now built something that has sustained, which is not easy to do these days in college basketball. And what an emotional moment that was last night. Okay, it's another 16 seed. They beat UMBC. It was in Dayton. It was what some of us call the play-in game. But it was the first NCAA tournament victory in the history of the school. And great game as they were able to hold on. I'll get to the details of what happened at the end. But this was Blakeney with the media, his opening statement after they knock off UMBC 86-83.
I'm a little bit lost for words. I had to ask Bryce to give the post-game speech because he's a heck of a lot more articulate at this moment and at times always than me. I really want to compliment UMBC and Coach Ferry and his team. What a wonderful year. They were on a 12-game winning streak. They won the America East regular season conference and won the tournament. And they were resilient and they fought. They did not want to go away all night. And I think our guys' resiliency and being battle-tested in our tournament and some of our games this year, it was a very familiar place for us. So I'm just so happy for our university, our players. We talk about these moments when we present our university to our young men. We talk about how important it is for them to have a chance to get to a NCAA tournament and win games. It's a box that we check. We talk about that before the game. We've never won a game. We've done a lot of things in our program, but let's check off the box of winning an NCAA game today. And I'm just so proud of our guys, so proud of our university, so proud of our leadership with Dr. Wayne Fredericks and Mr. Kerry Davis.
And Kerry Davis was the one who made the hire, and there was an emotional lead-up news conference to this from Blakeney where he was very emotional in thanking him for giving them the job. Bryce would be Bryce Harris, who gave the post game. He also hit what turned out to be the winning shot. Clock was winding down, and as the shot clock ran out with 14 seconds to go, he had a turnaround jumper, which was enough of a margin for them to hang on after UMBC missed a three-pointer at the buzzer. This was Harris on what he said to the team after the game.
Our post-game talk was actually about how last year, when me and both OC were out for the season, and we were out for the season because I ended up breaking my foot, and he ended up getting a concussion against who? UMBC, at UMBC. So coming like it's a full circle moment of how, it like you're playing your first NCAA, you winning your first NCAA tournament game against, a team that you got hurt against, you know what I mean? And they fought their butt off. Like, they are such a talented team. I felt like we would get to the point where we kind of get to push away, and they just, like, they wouldn't go away. And their guys are so solid, and a lot of them know their role, and they do it at the highest level. So, all credit to them. But, that's what it's basically about. And everybody kind of came in and played their part, which was huge.
OC is OC Okojoe. He's another one of the experienced players on the team. Had a career-high 23 points, played most of the last 12 and a half minutes of the game with 4 fouls. They overcame a lot to cement that win. So this was Okojoe and Harris talking about what was a wild last minute of the game. Howard was up 11 with less than 2 minutes to go. Then Harris hit this turnaround jumper just before the shot clock expired. They went up 4 with 13 seconds to go, and UMBC had a chance to tie in the closing seconds, but DJ Armstrong missed a 3-point shot. It would seem, a less experienced team might melt under those circumstances as they missed the front ends of 2 1-and-1s. But in the frenzy of it all, Okojoe and Harris were able to help their team hang on for the win.
It was just us being connected. Like, that's the biggest thing. Like, we've been in games like this before. If you guys check our rap sheet, we've been in games like this before. We've been in situations. We've practiced for these situations every single day, 7 a.m. So we know what came with it, and it wasn't anything like we were worried or anything like that. Because at this big stage, there's no time for fear. There's no time for worry. You gotta trust your work, and we have a hell of a coach that made us trust our work even more. So we trusted the game plan and trusted each other mostly. Like, the 5 guys out there, like, you got to be one unit, connected all the time. So those are really the conversations.
I'll just say, like, for me, it was, and I said this when we was at the MEAC tournament, just, the fans and everything, like, it's like overreaction to not overreaction, but there's a reaction to everything. But it's kind of like, just calm down. Like, it's a basketball game.
Keep your cool, the whole thing. Interesting analogy from Blakeney about what they did at the end. Coaches call timeout, and you think, they're drawing up some meticulous play that they've worked on in practice. It's a special play for this situation. That's not the case at Howard. And Blakeney had, I thought, kind of an interesting hair analogy as to how this team plays.
You ever see that guy that intentionally sits in a mirror and messes up his hair, does his hair in a messy way because he wants it to look messy for like 30 minutes? That's a little bit how we are. We give all our guys all the answers. We play motion. We don't run a lot of sets. We understand spacing. We understand how to move. We talk about having great ball movement and body movement. And the reason I say, like, the guy that sits in front of the mirror and messes up his hair for 30 minutes, it's like, that's what we do. When people see us, they go, you don't run anything. I go, but we practice this way every single day, where our guys are given the answers to every solution that they are presented. So even in the press break situations as it's coming down, we didn't have to change our formation. They have all the information. It's just up to them to execute and them to do it with one another.
Cool. No playbook. Just the instincts that they develop in practice allow them to close things out. Now, next step ain't going to be easy. That's going to be tomorrow night in Buffalo, where they play top seed Michigan. They're 16. But it's happened twice before. UMBC beat Virginia, which was the number one seed. Michigan isn't that. That's Duke. And then Fairleigh Dickinson in 2023 beat, I think it was Purdue that they beat Purdue as a number one seed. So it has happened before. Can it happen against Michigan? Probably not. Probably not. But what a great accomplishment for Howard last night, and what a great feeling for a school that had a basketball program that was pretty much dormant for 20 years, 25 years. Butch Beard had an NCAA tournament team in 1992, and they don't get back until 2024, so 22 years of 32 years, right? I'm terrible with math, but that shows you what Kenny Blakeney has been able to do, and to get there 3 times in 4 years and now finally win the school's first NCAA tournament game. Hats off to him for a tremendous job. He's 54 years old. That's not ancient for a coach, and I would imagine after this season he's going to get some offers, because in the NIL era, I know it's the MEAC, it's not the Big Ten, it's not the SEC, it's not the Big East, but in the NIL era, he has figured it out, and he's doing it with, transfer players, but also developing players in his system. And I would think if you're a player, that's the kind of system you want to play in. You want to play free, and they play fast, and they're fun, and they're entertaining to watch. So I would think that he will have offers if he wants to go someplace else. And look, Kurt Cignetti didn't land at Indiana until he was like 62. So 54 might be young, and I would think that he'll get some offers. We don't often have breaking news at this time of day. This is the time we look back on games from last night and more look ahead, but there was something that developed within the last 6 hours. And finally, the WNBA has a collective bargaining agreement, at least in place. It has to be ratified by the players, but they worked. And about 3 o'clock this morning, they came out of the hotel in New York and said that we have the framework of a deal. They have to work quickly because season is due to start on May 8th, but it looks like with everything they've done, training camp will open on time on April 19th, preseason games, and then the regular season on May 8th. It comes 17 months after the players opted out of the previous collective bargaining agreement in October of 2024, and 5 months after the former deal was initially set to expire in October of 2025. So they went back and forth, but here's the thing about the WNBA. Baseball can go away. Hockey went away for an entire season. The WNBA, which is about to go into season 30, didn't want to go away because there are other things to do in the summertime. And they probably would have been helped if this had been done a year ago, because Caitlin Clark didn't play much last year. And she was the sensation of the league in 2024. As much as the players and even the commissioner of the league, what was her name, Kathy Engelhart, even as much as they didn't want to admit that, Kathy Engelbert, they didn't want to admit that it was the Caitlin Clark. It was the Caitlin Clark effect. And things dropped off a little bit last year. They still had the momentum of that. But they didn't have the full, wow, did you see where she hit the half-court shot? Did you see where she made that three? Oh, my God, look at that. And she also was able to ride the wave of playing for Iowa. They didn't win the national championship. They lost to LSU, but not LSU. It was South Carolina that they lost to, but they rode the momentum of her going right into the season. The NCAA tournament wrapping up in April. WNBA season opens in May, so they had that. They don't have that, but at least they have a deal. And, Brittany Griner, she spent months in a Russian prison, partly because she was having to play over there to supplement her income. That's not to say that players won't still play overseas, but they've gotten it more towards a living wage in the WNBA. It used to be that players were making like $60,000, $70,000 top salary for like an Elena Deladon was like $200,000. That's a drop in the bucket. That's meal money for NBA players. So I think it's good that they have a deal, and I think this league, unlike hockey, which knocked out an entire season, the NBA has had lengthy work stoppages. One year they canceled the All-Star game. We've seen it in other sports. Football, of course, it's been a while, but football had the big work stoppage in 1982 where they knocked out 2 months of the season. Those sports survive. Those are ingrained in us. WNBA, even though it's about to go into season 30, it's relatively new. It was a loss leader for a long time for the NBA, and I don't even know with this new deal how much money they're actually going to make off of it. It was more like a marketing thing where the league said, well, let's see if we can attract some young women to watch this game. Fathers taking their daughters to games, and initially that was the intent of it. They kept the salaries low. The expectations for crowds were small, though Susan O'Malley did a great job of papering the house in the early days of the Mystics. They used to have full houses there with a lot of giveaway tickets. And it settled out into something that was, okay, yeah, WNBA, all right. And now with the Caitlin Clark effect and with women's sports in general, picking up soccer has had a huge boost as well, that there is enough interest here that they can pay the players reasonable amounts of money. The television contract has jumped considerably, and now we at least have labor peace, and we will have a season. We will have a Mystic season. You can relax. Everything is good on that. World Baseball Classic. U.S. lost, but boy, what a compelling event it was. And we'll get to Tim Kirchin's thoughts with Scott Van Pelt about it next. It's the Andy Pollard Show, ESPN 630. You've heard of the movie Dazed and Confused. Max Crosby says he was livid and confused over the trade to Baltimore that was rescinded last week. His first public comments about it yesterday. We'll get to that shortly. Last night, I watched a lot of this. Look, I was not all that excited about the World Baseball Classic, to be honest with you. I don't know about you, but when it started a little over 2 weeks ago, thinking, oh, okay, this is nice. They get these teams together, these countries, and then we resume spring training, and then the baseball season starts. It's March 25th. It used to start in mid-April, March 25th this year, and as a matter of fact, a week from tomorrow, the Nationals play their opener against the Cubs in Chicago. So, I really wasn't all that excited about it. But having watched a number of these games, including the last couple, I've really come away with it very, very impressed. And this is something that is going to be great for baseball heading into the season. This is a great momentum boost as they go into the 2026 season, which the way the labor negotiations appear to be shaping up, could be your last Major League Baseball for a while. Just like hockey, there is real concern that an entire season could be knocked out. There's a lot of labor issues with the Players Association, with Tony Clark resigning. The owners are looking to saddle up a salary cap finally, and the players have always been against that. So there could be no baseball in 2027, but we got baseball in 2026, that's for sure. And we got a great event that wrapped up last night with Venezuela beating the U.S. 3-2. Mark DeRosa, who caught some flack and deservedly so when, he thought that his team had already moved into the next round. And he went on the MLB network saying, our ticket is punched, and then they wind up losing to Italy, and they have to hope for Italy to beat Mexico so that they get to move on, which they do. They lost. I guess they lost to Mexico, was what it was. But anyway, they take it to the final game last night, and they did get a home run from Bryce Harper, but little else offensively, and they lose the game 3-2. Tim Kirchin, great baseball historian, loves the game, studies the game, knows the game probably as well as anybody these days. And he was on with Scott Van Pelt last night to wrap up what was a great event over 2.5 weeks.
This means what to the fans in Venezuela?
Well, it means everything to them. I mean, that's what the World Baseball Classic is all about, Scott. It's about pride in the country. And the energy and the emotion that we saw in the WBC was absolutely breathtaking. And I've never seen any team celebrate and enjoy a victory more than Venezuela did. When Wilyer Abreu hit the home run against the Japanese, the whole team jumped over the railing of the dugout and joined him on the way to first base. I've never seen a celebration like that. I think it's pretty fair to say that the Venezuelan team celebrated better than anyone we've ever seen, and they had every right to. And it's no surprise that Eugenio Suarez was right in the middle of all of that. He was tremendous again tonight.
But it's interesting as you say that. We clearly saw the joy on their faces and throughout in the highlight and throughout the WBC, but I don't feel like it was unique to them. The Dominican side had a blast. The United States side had a blast. It's clear that in a relatively short window of time, Tim, this event went from an idea to something that was like, okay, to a thing that really matters. And I think that's pretty remarkable.
It is, Scott. It has grown every time they played it, and now it is absolutely fabulous. And I think in a private moment, some people, players from Venezuela will tell you this is even bigger than winning the World Series for them in the United States. But you're right, it was everywhere. Every game that you go to was just stunningly good as far as the energy and the emotion. Scott, I covered this a few years ago, and it was like a party in the street when you left the ballpark. Fans were absolutely having the best time ever. That's kind of the idea here. We're supposed to be enjoying the game, and there was no more joy than we saw in this World Baseball Classic.
I was lucky after the United States hockey team won the gold medal. Jack Eichel, Noah Hannafin sat here in studio with us because Vegas was going to be in town to take on the Caps. And I think it caught him off guard how much it meant here. And when they landed back home, they knew. This is not going to catch the Venezuelan side off guard. They know what it means. But do you think that this event has surprised players in terms of what it has grown to mean, and to see like the reaction from Suarez on second base tonight? I just wonder if you get the sense from the players you talk to that when they come out of this event, they're like, I thought it'd be good, but it was even more than I thought it might be.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt about that. Kyle Schwarber hit a home run in this WBC, and he called it the biggest home run he's ever hit. He's hit 340 or so Major League homers. He's played in the World Series. He won the Home Run Derby, and this was the biggest homer he hit because he had the United States written across his chest. That's why this works so well. And with Eugenio Suarez, I've talked to him several times just about pride in his country. And when you look at his reaction when he got to second, as you said, and then after the game, when he went to his knees and put the flag over his head, that kind of speaks to everything that this WBC is about, especially for Venezuela.
And he has just spoken with Ken Rosenthal, and we appreciate our friends at Fox giving us the ability to share with our viewers here on ESPN what he just said afterwards. Here's that interview.
Can you describe what this means for your country?
I mean, what can I say about this? It's amazing. God is good. All the glory is for Lord Jesus. He was with us the whole time. We have to glorify, put his name in front of everything. And nobody believed in Venezuela, but now we win the championship today. And it's a celebration for all the Venezuelan country.
Your go-ahead double in the 9th inning. What were you thinking when you were standing on second base?
I just prayed at the time. Going to my family out there, they was happy for me. God is good, man. God is good.
Eugenio, what made this team so special?
The union. We are together the whole time. We're not just teammates, we are family. This team is awesome. We are family here. That's why we play with passion, with love, because we feel the jersey, we feel our country in front of us. That's why this is a lot for us as players, as a people, as a human beings, and as a Venezuelan. Now we are the champion.
Hey, Eugenio, congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Now over to Tom Verducci.
Thanks, Ken.
Actually, to Tim Kirkshin, it's hard, even if you're rooting for the United States, that's the team I was backing here, hard not to have a smile on your face, to hear the joy and to hear him describe what this means. And for the game to take this and use it as a launch pad. You think about hockey trying to come back and rejoin its season and use what they had as a moment to use as fuel. How does baseball sort of take this and then launch itself into the regular season? I would think there's a lot of fuel in the tank from this.
There is tremendous momentum here, Scott. We just finished what I thought was the greatest World Series of all time, and now we get the best WBC that we've ever seen. Tremendous momentum going into the season. And again, Eugenio Suarez, I've had at least 10 players tell me he's the best teammate that I've ever had. And when he rejoined the Mariners last year for the stretch run, they went, oh my goodness, he's back with us. That's how popular he is. And he's wildly productive. This is not a surprise that Venezuela won. Look at the guys they have on this team. We read that they stunned the Japanese team. Stunned? I don't think so. The Japan team was great, but Venezuela beat the Japan team and the United States. They deserve this in every way.
Of course, and if we're talking about the sort of vagaries of postseason baseball in a short series after you play 162, if it's a one-off, anything clearly could happen. And with that in mind, the United States side leaves this having knocked off the Dominican side, but losing in this way. If there's a final thought as it relates to this 26 WBC United States team, for you, what is it, Tim?
Well, it was disappointing for the United States that they didn't win, and it's mostly because they just didn't hit. They scored 20 runs in the last 6 games of the WBC. They scored 4 runs in the last 2 games. But again, Scott, they had basically the hitters that they wanted from all the teams, and they couldn't get it done. Just another reminder, when really good pitchers with really good stuff locate, like the Venezuelan team did basically for the entire WBC, even the best hitters on earth don't have much of a chance. And we saw that with the United States. I would have never guessed that any team could shut down this team for a 6-game span, and that's pretty much what happened. I mean, the U.S. should be proud to get this far, but they just didn't hit enough to win the WBC.
Pretty remarkable, given the 2 exhibition games that they played before the WBC started. They had 29 runs on 33 hits. And then once things got going, they really couldn't get going offensively. The 2-run homer for Harper last night was provided the only runs for the U.S. Now, we saw what happened with hockey, with the U.S. beating Canada in the Olympics. I don't know what kind of a rocket booster it's given for the NHL, but for a lot of people who don't watch any hockey, that was a great advertisement for the NHL. And who knows how many fans they picked up because of that. And we'll see once we get to the Stanley Cup playoffs what the ratings look like, with some of the players that you might be able to recognize from having watched them in the Olympics will help. The baseball is going to be in the Olympics in 2028 in Los Angeles. Much like hockey, they would have to stop the season to have Major League Baseball players participate in the Olympics. Might they do it? They've got a little time before they have to work things out. But when you listen to what the players are saying about participating in this, it might be great for baseball. Now, that's assuming we get the baseball season back on track. 2027, I think right now, very much in doubt. But 2028, hopefully we're playing games again. And Harper said after the game that he hopes if they allow major leaguers to participate that he would. I don't know how things would work with his contract with the Phillies. I mean, I can't imagine that baseball games would go on with our best players going to participate in the Olympics. I don't think that would happen. But could they do what they did in hockey, stop the season for 2 or 3 weeks and put this together? Aaron Judge said this a couple of days ago. He said the atmosphere for the World Baseball Classic when they played, was it Mexico? Whatever the game was before this, he said it was better than it was for the World Series. And he participated in the World Series with the Dodgers and the Yankees. That's two of the biggest name franchises in any sport. And he said the atmosphere at the World Baseball Classic was better. And he said, I'm always fired up for the Yankees, but I'm still pissed about this. So I'm looking forward to the next time we get to throw on the red, white, and blue and take care of business. That's good. That's good for baseball and good for the World Baseball Classic, which, gave us something that was, I think, unexpected. I don't think that it, at least for me, was going to create what it created over the last 2.5 weeks. So that was a really cool thing. All right, Max Crosby hasn't said anything publicly until yesterday about this Meshuggah thing that went down in Baltimore, where the deal is done. It's done on a Sunday. We okay. Ravens giving up 2 first-round picks. They've never done this before, but Max Crosby is worth it. They were last in the league in sacks. Crosby's the guy who can be a game wrecker. And then a couple days later, no trade. Trade falls through. They get Trey Hendrickson in free agency, don't have to give anything up, and they send Crosby back to the Raiders. Now, he didn't exactly blast the Ravens organization, but he went on his own podcast. This is how things are done these days, kids. You do your own thing. So he's got something called The Rush. And he said that he was livid and confused about not just being sent back to the Raiders, but the way all this developed. Now, first he complained about flying to Washington instead of Baltimore. I guess there are no direct flights from Vegas to Baltimore except on Southwest, but Southwest has no first class, so he couldn't fly first class, so they flew him to Washington. He said it took 2 hours to go to Baltimore. I don't know. Did his flight land? Even if his flight landed in the teeth of rush hour, you're going against traffic when you're going north from Washington to Baltimore. I don't know how much to believe that 2 hours, but okay. He flew to Washington. People who are not familiar with this area and don't realize how close the cities are might say, "Oh, they flew him to another city." Well, they flew him to D.C. Okay, so that's so he could get on a first class flight. But the odd thing about this was. And here's some of his explanation, that he was pretty much ignored once he got into the facility. We call this scope down. We took out a lot of the pauses and the changing. This is like the guts of what he said on his podcast, The Rush.
They called and whatever. They're like, yo, we're going to fly you out Monday, get to Tuesday. I come in the building. They drive me out to the facility in the morning. We had to leave a couple hours, maybe an hour in or an hour and a half in to go get MRIs and x-rays and all that. I wanted to see the head coach and just chop it up, talk football, talk ball. Like, he's a defensive guy. I didn't get to meet with him till the end of the day. I didn't get to see the GM at all. I thought I was going to see him when I first got there. I didn't see him for 5 hours. Joe was like, I'll take you up and you go see the head coach, whatever, just before you leave. I dap him up, and you could just tell, the energy was a little bit off. And the GM was standing in the hall, in the room next to me to the right. And that was the first time I seen him. Just in my head, this is a whirlwind. I'm so excited, fired up. You know what I mean? This is a new opportunity, whatever. And you could just tell the energy was off. I dapped him up. He had a blank face. They sit me down on the couch and he's like, man, I don't know how to say this, but one of our doctors has concerns with the results and whatever. And with your knee, some of them have, are concerned about the future and da-da-da-da-da. We know we really want you and this is what it is, but we're just going to have to get more and more opinions. And I'm like, all right. So I'm sitting there waiting for a call. I can't even sit still, bro. One of the Ravens guys called me and was like, yo, we're trying to figure this out. We're going to get this done. Don't worry. 5 minutes later, CJ calls me. It's like, they're backing out. So I'm livid, confused, the whole nine all in one. That whole situation was probably one of the most unique, crazy, wild, up and down roller coaster I've ever been a part of. Everyone's got their own theory, conspiracy theory. No one really will ever admit at either side what the real truth is or whatever. It doesn't even matter. I am where I'm supposed to be. I know that.
At least for now. We'll see if the Raiders still trade him. That's a possibility. But CJ is his agent, CJ LeBoy. He's the one that called him moments after the team told him, yeah, we think we can work things out. Eric DeCosta is the general manager. The new head coach is Jesse Minter. It goes down as one of the oddest things I've ever seen because they knew he was coming off knee surgery. Now, according to Adam Schefter, the surgeon for Max Crosby, Dr. Neil Atrache, I think is how you pronounce it, that Crosby's been doing well in his rehab. It was a significant meniscus tear in the knee and related stress injury to the bone and cartilage, but they expected him to be on track and ready for training camp in July. What actually happened here, I think Crosby's 100% right. We'll never really know the truth. We don't know. But for now, he's a Raider. The Ravens have their highly paid pass rusher. They even said that there was a chance they were going to try and get Hendrickson together with Crosby, have the two of them. I don't know how they would have fit that in under the cap, but that's also part of their position. Their position seems to be, although they didn't say it, They didn't say publicly that we didn't go through with the trade because of the physical, but that could be part of it, or it could be like, hey, wait a minute. We're giving up 2 first-round picks for a 28-year-old pass rusher with a bad knee where we can have a 31-year-old guy for just money. We don't have to give anything up. Well, let's do that. Let's do that. That's the way it seems. And I would even go so far as a conspiracy theory that when they were negotiating with Hendrickson, they said, watch this, knowing that Crosby wouldn't pass the physical because of the knee surgery. They made this trade knowing they could rescind it. And, hey, Trey, good to hear from you. Yeah, we're talking to Max right now. You'd like to go with our offer? Okay, great. And then they flunk Max on the physical, or they rescind the trade because of what they see on the physical. They don't like it. Who knows? I think it's 100% right by Crosby. We'll never know the full truth on that. All right, coming up in the next hour, we'll look more at Howard's great win last night in the NCAA tournament and what Reggie Miller says about someone actually breaking Bam Adebayo's 83. It's the Andy Pollin Show, ESPN 630. You know that thing in sports where you just do it one more time and think you can match what you did before, and it doesn't work out? Well, that's what happened with Phil Jackson. Phil Jackson gets his chance to become a head coach with the Chicago Bulls, wins 6 titles, leaves the Bulls, gets another shot to become head coach of the Lakers, wins 5 more titles. Then the team that he won 2 championships with as a player, the New York Knicks, call and says, yeah, I'll do that. Not as coach, but as team president. Yeah, that was a disaster. Should have stayed out. Did it ruin his legacy? No. But there's that thing at the end of his career that you go, oh, yeah, the Knicks happened. And 12 years ago today, the Knicks happened with Phil Jackson becoming team president. We'll look back on that coming up later this hour. Howard is moving on. They got their dancing shoes on. Stop. They're moving on in the NCAA tournament for the first time in school history. This was, I believe, the 5th time that they had made it, the 3rd time in 4 years under Coach Kenny Blakeney. They made it in 1992 under Butch Beard, and I think one time before that. But what happened last night had never happened in school history. They won an NCAA tournament game, beating UMBC 86-83. They were comfortably in front most of the game. I think it was 8 points at the half. Howard was up 11 with less than 2 minutes to play, and they missed the front ends of 2 1-and-1s. And with the shot clock winding down and only a 2-point lead, Bryce Harris hit a turnaround jumper. They were up 4 with 13 seconds to go. UMBC hit a layup. They fouled. Then Howard hit 1 of 2 free throws, and Howard actually had the ball with a chance to tie the game on a 3-pointer at the end, but DJ Armstrong missed, and Howard moves on. Kenny Blakeney took over a program that was a disaster. I mean, they were an absolute mess, and they were nowhere. And especially in this market where you have Georgetown and Maryland regularly going to the tournament. You had a resurgence with GW under Mike Jarvis. They had some great years there. George Mason making the Final Four in 2006. AU has won the Patriot League title a few times in between, and Howard was nothing. And Kenny Blakeney took the job, and he was an outside-the-box hire, even though his pedigree for basketball was spectacular. He was a great player at DeMatha, Gatorade Player of the Year, went to a little school called Duke, was a part of 2 national championship teams back-to-back, and captained the team his senior year. He was limited, though, in his coaching. He'd gone into private business, and when Howard called, it was like an itch to scratch. Okay, yeah, I'll come in and coach a program that was, well, as people say when they take jobs like this, the only place to go is up. And that's what they did. And so this was the last question of the news conference last night after Howard's victory about what it meant to build a program the way that he has since taking over as coach in 2019.
When we took over the job, I want to say Howard was, for like the last 20 years, the 354th ranked team in the country. So for me, that was great because there was nothing else to do but go forward and make this team and this program a better program. We talked about, like, we'd like to become a winner. We'd like to become a contender. We'd like to become a champion. We'd like to become, at that point then like the most dominant team in the league. And as we kind of checked off some of those boxes, obviously advancing in the NCAA tournament was one of those boxes as well. I believe that Howard has a brand that is globally recognized. And what has been done on the academic side with so many wonderful alums going out in the world and contributing so much, I really feel that we can replicate that success on the basketball court. And we've been grinding at it, kind of unseen, and we've had opportunities in different places to kind of showcase our basketball talent. If it's the NBA All-Star Game, if it's the Michael B. Jordan Classic, if it's the HBC Classic, whatever those moments are. But being on this stage and being able to check this box is, it's the only game going on right now. And the whole college basketball world, I'm pretty sure, was locked in on this. So what a wonderful accomplishment. But like I said earlier, I'm so much happier for our university, our leadership, Mr. Kerry Davis, our president, Dr. Wayne Frederick, our young men. Because, when I went to Duke, I understood what going to Duke meant. I went to Duke to win championships. And I want our young men to come to Howard to win championships because, I'm having opportunities from, 1991 and 1992 at the age of 54 that are still present and presenting themselves daily, that, being a part of a very small part of a wonderful basketball program that happened to win 2 national championships back-to-back years. And I understood that. So when I present opportunities to our players, it's about how do you brand, market, and separate yourself from other students at Howard, right? You do it in the classroom, you do it in the community, and you do it on the court. But if you have a chance to win a championship, MEAC conference tournament, regular season tournament, championship, or an NCAA, games in advance, there's not going to be an alum in the country that won't take your phone call. So, you come to Howard for reasons to try to position yourself for the next 30 to 40 to 50 years of your life. And hopefully with our guys, they're doing that today.
That's that's the long view that Mike Krzyzewski always took, and Kenny Blakeney, having played for him, as well as Morgan Wooten, has that kind of background and has brought that to Howard. He just said he was 54 years old. There's going to be openings. There are already openings now. Kim English has been fired at Providence. That could be a possibility. There are people who are going to call him, and whatever happens, I'm sure it'll be his decision. I don't think there's going to be any pressure from his family. Maybe, I don't know, but if he's going to strike, now's the time to strike. If he elects to stay at Howard, he could be there for a long time. He's built exactly what he said he wanted to build. He's got a program that's sustainable. And in this NIL era, like he says, when you call an alum, they'll take your call. He's talking about alums that can contribute money to the program as well as ones who can hire his players for jobs in the real world. So great job that he has done. And whatever happens against Michigan tomorrow night, what a great season, what a great building of a program he has done since taking over in 2019. Kenny Blakeney, great job at Howard. This is interesting. Yesterday, Laremy Tunsil, who recently broke a barrier, becoming the first tackle to get $30 million a year, had a news conference to just go over questions from the media about the new deal and getting ready for the upcoming season. And the Tunsil situation was exactly the same as it was with Terry McLaurin last year, an older player, guy 30 years old. I think Tunsil's 31, and the contract still has a year to go, but, they wanted to work out an extension. And as we know, Terry McLaurin's deal wasn't done until after training camp. He didn't participate in a single training camp practice. Tunsil's deal got done in lightning speed. It was like, oh, okay, we'll get it done. Like Adam Peters said at the Combine last year, oh, yeah, we'll get Terry worked out. And then apparently Terry and his agent shot for the moon, and they were like, no, we're not going that high. And they eventually worked out something closer to what they wanted to do. With Tunsil, I guess, maybe both sides were on the same page or what they wanted to do, or it could be that the Commanders are looking at Tunsil and looking at their number one asset in Jaden Daniels and saying, we got to make sure we have protection for him. They know they're going to negotiate with Jaden Daniels' mom next year. Same situation. He'll have 2 years left on his contract at that point, or a year and the team option. But they're going to want to work out an extension. So they're probably showing him, okay, we're going to provide you with protection. You're going to want to be here, and maybe you don't take a big hometown discount, but we're not going to drag it out a long time. It certainly did not drag out with Tunsil. Here we are in the middle of March, and the deal is done. This was Tunsil on that yesterday.
I was very excited that we got the deal done. Quicker than normal. I think this is the quickest one I have done out of the three I had. But it shows that how much they respect me, and of course, it means a lot that AP and the front office wanted to get something done with me, so that means a lot.
So were you surprised that it got done so fast, and why? I mean, I guess along those lines, why do you think it got done so fast?
I don't know. Maybe because I'm a great player. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I guess those guys respect me in the front office, and they probably just wanted to get something done quicker than normal. They didn't want to drag the situation out and have another situation they had with Terry. Maybe they wanted to get it done fast, quicker than normal because of that situation, maybe. But I know I'm talking in circles, but that's the only thing I can really think of.
I would think of this too. That McLaurin was a player. If it got too bad, they could trade him. Tunsil's not a guy they feel like they could trade. That's their left tackle. That's the guy they want to protect the franchise, and so that's why they got that done. He also has had an unbelievable ability to reset the market. Now, realize where he came from. He was coming out of Ole Miss in 2016 draft. 10 minutes before the draft started, there was a photo on what we now call X, Twitter, of him with a gas mask and a bong. And he said, and I think he says to this day, that the account was hacked. But it scared off two teams that needed tackles. Baltimore was picking 6. They passed on him. And then Tennessee was picking 8. They passed on him. Miami took him at 13. He played 4 years. They traded him to Houston, played there for 5, and along the way signed a contract which reset the market for tackles at $25 million a year. Now he's reset it again at 30 and said this.
Funny story. I was trying to tell my son, like, Dad just, got more money. Like, I resetted the market again. And my son was like, does that mean I'm rich? Does that mean I'm famous, Dad? Like, he's 8, so he really doesn't understand the magnitude that goes into that. So, but again, it's a great feeling just to be in this position.
Well, the kid's rich. If Dad's making $30 million a year, you're doing okay. You're doing fine. This is more from Tunsil on why DC is such a good fit for him.
I'm wanted. They want me. They appreciate me. They appreciate what I bring to the table. There's no shade to anybody else. I don't want this to come out like it's a shade towards Houston or anybody, but I feel like I'm very appreciated here, and it goes both sides. Like, they appreciate me, and I appreciate them. I love AP. I love Dan Quinn. I love everything they stand for and they preach and what they bring to the team, to the locker room. So I think that's what it is, honestly.
Another thing that and this, another guy who, he was not like Tunsil in that we had the draft scare and everything, but I don't think most people were that excited about Chris Paul being in the organization until last year when he teamed up on the left side with Tunsil. Now, it's not Grimm and Jacoby yet, but the two of them have worked well together, and Chris Paul recently re-signed with the team, and Tunsil was absolutely thrilled about it.
I was damn happy with us signing Chris Paul back. Thank God he didn't go to another team. I know that sounds very selfish of me. But our next step is continue to build off of last season. Me and Chris developed a damn good relationship. I think it was week 3 against the Raiders when we first got our start together. Yeah. And it kind of just went from there. But, it's kind of playing next to somebody you really don't have to say much to. It's just kind of like everything just falls in place. Pass pro, run blocking, doesn't matter what it is. Like, it's easy playing next to him, and outside of football, just on a personal level, he's a great guy, a great human. And that's also a plus to play next to and to have in the locker room with us.
And recognize this with a right-handed quarterback, generally it would seem that you're going to run left more often. I mean, think about the turn on that. Sure, you can hand off with your left hand, but you're more used to handling the ball with your right hand, so you're going to go to the left side. During the heyday of John Riggins, it was over Highway 66 and Highway 68 over the left side. And so if you got Paul and Tunsil on that side, not just for pass blocking, but for run blocking as well. And the latest mock draft from Mel Kiper with Commanders picking 7, he has them taking Sonny Styles, the linebacker from Ohio State. He was just terrific at the Combine. And I love the fact that his nickname is Sonny because his parents liked the movie The Godfather, and they thought about, how he was like Sonny Corleone. So that was interesting. But anyway, if Jeremiah Love is still there, and Mel's mock draft has Love going number 4 to Tennessee, so he may not be there at 7. But if that's part of the plan, that you bring in Jeremiah Love and you have arguably the best left tackle in the league along with an emerging guard, and the two of them, clearing out the way, that could be really fun to watch and something that could be in the works. Now, will they be in a position to draft Love? And even if they are, will they take him at 7? I don't know. I mean, they need help in a lot of different places, including defense, and Sonny Styles would be a great addition to that defense. But that's the way things are being discussed right now. And having Tunsil all signed up and in the fold, I think answers a lot of questions about which way they're going as an organization. Relatively few coaches have had great second acts. Relative to everything else that went on in the 24 years that Dan Snyder owned the Redskins, Joe Gibbs' second act was good, but not nearly up to the standard of his first go-round, where he went to 4 Super Bowls, won 3 of them, had a spectacular 12-year run, which put him in the Hall of Fame. And I think to this day, he remains the only coach ever to come out of the Hall of Fame to coach again. And he joked about it destroying his legacy. It didn't, but he didn't come close to what he did the first time around. He made the playoffs twice. He had 2 losing seasons on each side of them, and then retired for good after the 2007 season. Yeah, 2007. That was it for him. I think he's more representative of what happens when a coach gets his second time. Now, they've had college coaches. Rick Pitino's taken a bunch of teams to the NCAA tournament. Eddie Sutton's taken multiple teams to the Final Four. It happens, but by and large, there really isn't a great second run that matches the first one. Well, for Phil Jackson, it almost did, and it was almost impossible to outrun the first one. Phil Jackson got the opportunity to coach Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls. There's some stories to why Doug Collins was fired, but, I don't know. I haven't confirmed any of them, so I'm not going to tell them on the air. But there's some things about Doug Collins that caused the Bulls organization to move on from him, and they hired his assistant coach, Phil Jackson, at the right time. After the 2-year run by the Detroit Pistons bad boys ended, the Chicago Bulls went on one of the greatest runs in the history of sports, and had Michael Jordan not gone to baseball for a couple of years, they might have won 8 straight. And The Last Dance gave us a view of how great it was during the pandemic when nothing else was on and everybody watched The Last Dance, about how they won their last championship together. Phil then leaves the Bulls, as was the plan by Jerry Krause, the GM. They were moving on. Organizations win championships, not players, not coaches. Yeah, okay. And so Phil goes to the Los Angeles Lakers, where he's got Jordan, too. Someone who wanted to be Jordan as much as anybody, Kobe Bryant, and came damn close to doing it, and teamed him up with Shaq, and they won 3 championships with that duo. And then even after Shaq left, they won 2 more with Kobe. Phil left for a year, I think came back, and had this unbelievable run with the Lakers. And the only reason it ended for good there with the Lakers was he was having back problems. It was difficult for him to travel, difficult for him to sit during games, and so the time had come to give up coaching, and he was out for a year or 2. And then the team that he came into the NBA with as a player and was a part of 2 championship teams, the New York Knicks called. And even though James Dolan was the Dan Snyder of the NBA, remains the Dan Snyder of the NBA, don't work for him. He was offered a lot of money. It was reportedly, I forget what the number was. He got $10 million a year to coach the Lakers. It might have been in that ballpark to be the president of the New York Knicks. He would do the hiring and the firing. He wouldn't do the coaching. And it was on this day in 2014 that Phil Jackson was going to take another go-round in the NBA with the New York Knicks.
I can think of no better opportunity than have the opportunities that I've had in 3 of the biggest cities in America to lead the basketball franchises, both in Chicago and Los Angeles, and now to come back to where I started in basketball. It's a great feeling. There's no better place to win than in New York City. It really is something that's special. And, it had a definite impact in my decision to come here. There's no doubt about Carmelo being one of the top scorers in the league, maybe the best individual isolation players in the game. I have no problems with committing to saying Carmelo is in the future plans. Next year does have a group of guys together. Steve and I are going to work on how to manage the roster and our financials so that we can have an impact in that area. I think we know that we need another solid contributor, someone that can score, that help Carmelo go along and contribute to this team.
Got it. So Carmelo Anthony's great. We're going to build the Knicks around Carmelo Anthony. I think he was looking at him in the trilogy of Kobe, and before that Jordan, and now Carmelo. 3 seasons later, it was over. Supposed to be a 5-year deal. It lasted 3. Neil Everett reported this in June of 2017.
Phil Jackson appears to be on his way out soon, as in Wednesday morning in New York as president of the Knicks. Our Ramona Shelburne with this tweet: Knicks and President Phil Jackson expected to announce that they're parting ways early Wednesday morning. That was Ramona's tweet. And joining us now on the phone is Ramona Shelburne. And Ramona, late Tuesday night, clarity expected in the Knicks situation. Early Wednesday morning, for the sake of clarity, what do you know?
Well, look, I think this all accelerated very quickly on Tuesday, and a lot of these conversations went deep into the night to the point where, I think it sort of became clear what was going to happen here. And, Adrian Wojnarowski from The Vertical had a report out saying that they were that James Dolan had been having conversations and thinking about Phil Jackson's future, and obviously once one report or any whiff of that gets out, everything else sort of falls into place, right, as you're a reporter. But I think this all happened, quite frankly, very quickly, late Tuesday afternoon and into the evening in New York.
Why now?
Well, look, this week the Knicks sort of had a decision to make, and that was whether or not to buy out Carmelo Anthony. And the idea, Mark Stein reported this earlier today, that Carmelo Anthony had asked the Knicks if they would buy him out, and the idea was that he would get a buyout and go to a contender, presumably Cleveland. And the Knicks are absolutely not going to do that. He has 2 years remaining on his contract, and that no trade clause that we obviously we've been talking about for quite some time. And so there's no end to the stalemate. Like, if you're not going to buy him out, and there's no way he will agree to a trade, I just think Phil Jackson and the Knicks could not see a future where all of them were back in that sort of toxic triangle we've been in for the past year at the start of next year.
Yeah, so it was supposed to be all sunshine and lollipops with Carmelo. I'm sure Carmelo looked at Phil Jackson and said, do for me what you did for Michael and Kobe. And obviously, things did not go that way. We got some more information about what actually happened when Phil Jackson put out his book, Masters of the Game, a conversational history of the NBA 75 legendary players, which was released last year. And he talked about his time with the Knicks, which lasted 3 years. And he detailed the conversation with James Dolan, the owner, in which the Knicks owner questioned whether the media would run Jackson out of town, with Jackson responding that this broken pairing with Anthony meant one of them had to leave. Like, the Big Apple isn't big enough for both of us. Dolan said, I don't want you to go through it. I know what it's like to deal with these people. The media. He doesn't like the media either. Jackson said in the book, unfortunately, my relationship with Carmelo is kind of busted, and if he's going to be here, it's probably best that I go. Jackson ultimately left the Knicks in June of 2017, and the team decided at that time not to buy out his contract, though 3 months later, they traded him to the Oklahoma City Thunder after he waived his no-trade clause. So they got Phil out of the way, and then they got Carmelo out of the way. There were some critical comments that he had made along the way during the season on social media. Even the Players Union got involved in that. The situation was viewed as beyond repair at the end of that 2017 season. And Jackson had said, I don't want Carmelo back on the team. We got to find a way to trade him. I said, let's sit down with his agent, who is Leon Rose. I think Leon Rose is now working for the Knicks, and explain that we're not going to win a championship. Carmelo wants a championship. He wants to be on a team that has a chance to be. He's a Hall of Famer. And so later, Carmelo, in an interview that he did with Dwayne Wade in February 2024, he said, when I left New York, I didn't leave New York. I got pushed out of New York. Phil pushed me out of New York. I struggled to leave New York. Phil also made some mistakes along the way. He hired Derek Fisher as a coach right after his playing career ended. He said he wasn't ready to coach. And he said this, that the job cost him his romantic relationship with Jeannie Buss. Jeannie Buss is now married to, it's a comedian, I think, Dennis Leary. I think she's married to Dennis Leary now. Anyway, he said she got pressured from the league because she was worried about the idea of collusion that could happen between an owner and a president. Yeah, I guess that must have been something that they did worry about, that the boyfriend was running the Knicks and the girlfriend owned the Lakers. How is that going to work out? Sam Smith wrote the book with him, and they had input from a number of players on that. So that was the ill-fated marriage triangle, a toxic triangle, as Ramona Shelburne put it. The New York Knicks, Phil Jackson, and Carmelo Anthony. And sometimes, you look for that storybook ending to your career, and the story doesn't end the way that you would hope for it to end. And I don't think that Phil has been involved in the NBA since then. He's not done any broadcasting. Phil must be 80 years old now, right? He must be that. He came into the league like late 60s, so he's probably close to 80 years old, and does have that. But I think that most people would think of him, especially the way our memory was refreshed with The Last Dance. Most people would think of him as coach of the Bulls, even with what he did with the Lakers. Now, maybe that's with younger people might think, oh, I don't really remember. 1998 was a long time ago. No, isn't he Kobe and Shaq's coach? Isn't he the guy? No, he was, but at least for me, he will always be the coach of the Chicago Bulls. And I'll say this for him: it wasn't like it was handed to him right away. After he finished playing in the 70s I think he finished up with the New York Nets or New Jersey Nets. He coached in the CBA, coached in the minor leagues, rode the buses, things like that, and later said he had Michael Graham. Remember Michael Graham, the 1 year with Georgetown when they won the national championship? He was the enforcer with Patrick Ewing. Had a great game in the final against Houston. He wound up at the CBA with Phil, and you would think the two of them would have made a good pairing, but he said no, that was a problem for me. Interesting. I've gotten to know Michael a little bit in the last few years. So anyway, that's what happened. The Phil Jackson marriage with the New York Knicks, which had so much promise, started today in 2014 and ended just over 3 years later. And now you know the rest of the story. All right, tomorrow's Thursday. That's when the tournament gets going in earnest, when the balls start bouncing at noon. I'll be back with more preview at 9 a.m.